Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Nice to see you all. It's a nice, packed room, which is wonderful. My name is Jay. I'm one of the co-founders at Imagine Insights. And my presentation actually should only take about 30 minutes, but I've just been told to make it as long as humanly possible. So I'm going to slow down and speak real slow, but we're in this together, so it's okay. So my name is Jay. I'm one of the co-founders at Imagine Insights. And our mission is to help Gen Z to shape their future. And realistically, we know this is best done with brands, because brands are shaping countries and culture like our lovely governments only wish they could do. I saw your president was here yesterday, which is kind of cool. He looked like a real serious dude. Like, I loved him. I just looked at him. I was like, he looks like a cool guy. But anyway. So what we do is we enable our clients to crowdsource qualitative and quantitative insight from our community. So we have a community of over 35,000 Gen Z in 111 countries around the world. They are 60% female, 25% black, like me, 15% Asian, 20% from a low-income background, 20% from the LGBT plus community, and 2% registered disabled. So they're actually diverse, which is always a good start, right? And the reason why a lot of our clients come to us is because not only do we have a diverse community, but we have a community all over the world. So we're in 111 countries. So we're actually in the Czech Republic, which is cool. So you can download the app and get involved if you want to. But we're in everywhere from the US to the UK, Spain, Germany, France, all across the rest of EMEA, across Latin America and Asia. We're in about 53% of the world. So we're pretty much everywhere, which is delightful. And the main reason why our clients come to us is because we can get this insight from our community within a matter of minutes. So we have two different offerings. Our first offering enables you to get in-depth insight from Gen Z in minutes, all around big macro questions. So something like, what did you wear yesterday and why did you love it? So I like my outfit. So this is what I wore today and I feel great. So we would ask a question like that and get their response in minutes. And then we also have another offering that enables you to get more in-depth insights within 72 hours. There we go. These are some of our clients. You're going to recognize pretty much every single logo on that screen, which is cool. Obviously, Nike, Apple, Google. So we work very, very hard. We've got a lot of amazing clients, which is wonderful. But that's enough about us, because you didn't come here to hear me talk about my business. What you came here to hear about is about Gen Z and Generation Alpha. I love this photo, by the way. How beautiful does she look? She looks sick. Anyway. I've got ADHD, so sometimes I get distracted, so I apologize in advance. But anyway, so Gen Z, who are they? They are aged between 8 to 27 years old. So the common misconception is a lot of time people think Gen Z are very, very young. They think they're children, but they're actually 27 years old. So some of you might be Gen Z and you're thinking, nah, I'm a millennial. And we always do that. I don't know why. People are always like, I'm a millennial, I'm not Gen Z. You're Gen Z, chill, it's okay. So 8 to 27 years old. Their spending power is increasing to $33 trillion. That's with a T. Trillion dollars by 2030. If I could have a little bit of that money, I would take it. But anyway, 2030, so $33 trillion. And there's three overarching characteristics that I want to tell you about Gen Z. So the first one is that they are activists. So with millennials, we would say we're activists. You're like, oh, you know what? Like, I care about the environment. I care about the world. It's so important. But at the same time, I still wear like a really expensive coat that's probably made from like duck or something like that. But with Gen Z, when they say they are activists, they actually are. So if you look at anything like Black Lives Matter back in 2019, if you look at the fight for the LGBT community, if you look at the fight for women's equality and women's rights, it's Gen Z that are really, really leading the charge. They're the ones that are making demands. And actually, I saw a really interesting video yesterday. So there's a company called Warner Brothers. So they make most of the movies that we watch. And their CEO was speaking at an event in the US, a university graduation event. And as he's speaking, these Gen Z just start shouting him down. They're just like, pay your writers. So he's trying to talk. So he's like, so I love Gen Z, and they're just like, shut up, pay your writers, shut up, pay your, like, this is the CEO of Warner Brothers, and they're demanding that he pays their writers, which is cool. So it's good to see that from this demographic. The second thing to mention is that they are co-creators. So I'm going to pick on millennials again, because I'm a millennial, so you can't tell me off for picking on us. But with Gen Z, with millennials actually, sorry, we want to be the ones on the camera. We want to be on the stage, give me a microphone, or interview me on a podcast. But with Gen Z, they just want to do cool things with cool people. They don't really care who gets the credit. They just want to build great things. Prime example of this is TikTok. So how many people have TikTok in the room? All right, just me, cool, no worries. All right. Download TikTok. And one of the great things I love about TikTok is, this isn't an ad for TikTok, by the way, but the great thing about TikTok is you see them just creating. They're not trying to be the face of it. They will create a video, someone else will like the video, and then they will co-create on the top of it. And that's a great thing to see, when they're just co-creating cool things. With millennials, we want to be the face. If you look at Instagram, that's like a primary millennial platform. Like, look how perfect like, you won't post all year round on Instagram, and then when you go on holiday, whoo, you will post. You're like, look at me, I'm on holiday, I'm living my best life, and then you're not gonna see me again till next year when I'm back on holiday again. That's millennials. But with Gen Z, they're on TikTok, they're just crying, they've got acne. It's like real life. I'm just like, bro, not like that. But anyway. And then the last thing to mention is that they are digital natives. So with millennials, we had to adopt technology. So I actually remember the first smartphone coming out. I know I'm old, but I remember the first smartphone coming out, and in school, and it had like a rotating camera on top of the phone. I remember being so excited. And my mum was like, oh, I've got you this phone. And I was excited, and then I lost it 3 weeks later. And my mum's Jamaican, so that didn't go down too well. I got in a lot of trouble, but anyway. But they're digital natives. So with this demographic, they grew up with technology. So these guys are just used to app updates. They're used to new phones coming out. So for them, it's just normal. It's completely normal to have new technology, and they adopt it very, very quickly, which is great. So this is the overarching thing about Gen Z. And then now I'm just going to talk about some common misconceptions before I move on. So one of the interesting things that's normally millennials that will say it, so it's normally old people like me that will say things like this. The first one is that they are too young to be spending. But we've already said that that's not true, because they are 27 years old. And I'm not going to lie to you, I remember being 27, I was spending a lot of money on irrelevant stuff. But these guys are doing that. They're out here spending loads and loads of money at the moment. Like I said earlier, their spending power is increasing to $33 trillion by 2030. That is a lot of money being spent. And the key thing for us to remember is that even if we think they are young, they actually aren't. And it's actually time to engage with them. The second thing is that they are outspoken on everything. And like I said earlier, with millennials, we pretend that we're outspoken, but really, I'm just too old and too tired. But with Gen Z, they are truly outspoken. And the reason why this is because they're digital natives and they've had access to technology, they actually are able to see strife and pain and agony on other sides of the world in ways that I wasn't able to see when I was that age. When I was a kid, it was just like whatever was going on in London, that was all that was happening to me. But for these guys, they're like, I can go onto social media and I can see what's happening in Sudan. I can see what's happening for people's rights in the US. So they get to see all of this. So for them, it's actually, they're seeing it as like, I must speak out on these things because I'm constantly being bombarded with all of this pain. So I must make sure that I do what I can to try and combat that, which is interesting. The third thing to mention is that they are all environmentally conscious. And this is the funny thing, is that the problem that we have most of the time, so say for example, a brand will come to us and they will say something like, oh, Gen Z care about the environment. And they do, but at the same time, they're buying a lot of fast fashion. Do you know what I mean? Like if I see a pair of jeans for £1, I'm gonna buy a pair of jeans for £1. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna skip past it. So they do care about the environment, but let's be real, right now, they're broke. They don't really have that money. By 2030, they're gonna have 33 trillion. Yeah, we get it. But right now, they're broke. So they're not buying all these expensive things. They're not buying from sustainable brands because sustainable brands are expensive. But fast fashion is not. If I can get that t-shirt for £1.50, I'm gonna get the t-shirt for. Also, your exchange rate is crazy. I don't know, this is a complete side note. But like, it was like what's the currency called here? Czech crown, there we go, thank you so much, I'm learning, great. So the Czech crown, like one of those is like 0.036 pounds or pennies, which is great, because it just means everything I buy here is so cheap. Anyway, side note, sorry, ADHD. All right, cool. So the second to last one, and then we're going to move on to really what I came here to talk about, is that they all love polished social media. This is not true. As I said earlier, you've got Gen Z on TikTok with their acne all out. They're out here just snot bubbles, crying, just disappointed, just all over the TikTok. They just don't care. They're just being themselves. And a lot of the time with brands, because a lot of people that run the brands are millennials, old people like me. I know I look young, I've got a good skincare regime, but anyway. A lot of the people that run the brands are old like me. So they're like, oh, we're the Instagram generation. I'm going to post about my holiday once a year. But with this demographic, they're just like, just tell me the real. Tell me what it's really like on the inside of that brand, which is cool. And then the last one to mention before we moved on to our next slide, and I'm slowing it down as slow as I can. This clock is just not going down as fast as I thought it was going to go, but anyway, we'll be all right. A lot of time people make the common misconception, they try to group Gen Z into one demographic. And that is the biggest mistake you can make. And I say this, and my entire business is me grouping people into demographics, so forgive me. But the interesting thing with this generation is that, and I think with most generations, there's actually a lot of common characteristics between Gen Z and older generations. So you'll see there's a lot of common characteristics between Gen Z and Gen X. That's the generation just older than me. And the interesting thing about the technology that we have these days is that because we all have access to it at the same time, we can all come to the same level of knowledge about something at the exact same time. So then you actually end up all caring about the same things or being passionate about the same things at a similar time. And that's never happened in any previous generation that's come before. So it's very hard for companies to try and group people into one section because actually, really, most demographics are very, very common, which is cool. All right, we're going to move on. That's enough about Gen Z. I'm going to talk about Generation Alpha. Who are Generation Alpha, I hear you ask? So we ran out of letters in the alphabet. And for some reason, we started at Gen X. So it was Gen X. So literally, we had boomers. I hate that word, by the way. Boomers is such a terrible, it always feels like a derogatory word every time I say it. But there's boomers. Then there's Gen X. Then there's Gen Y. Then there's Gen Z, so it's millennials with Gen Y, and then we've got Gen Z, and now we've got to start at Gen Alpha again. Like, why didn't we start earlier in the alphabet? Why did we, anyway. It's a whole other conversation for another time. So who are Generation Alpha? We're going to run through these. So the first thing is that they are under 8 years old. So as I said earlier, Gen Z, 8 to 27. These guys, Generation Alpha, the new alphabet. Wait, what's the next generation going to be called? Generation Beta. That's a terrible name. That's a horrendous, you don't want to be called Generation Beta. I want to be an alpha. No, you're a beta, shut up. Sorry, ADHD. So they are currently 8 years and younger, which is cool. 2.8 million of them are born every day. That kind of creeped me out. I was like, well, that's a lot of babies. Like, everyone chill, it's okay. They're the most diverse generation in history, which is really cool. So they say by 2050 that pretty much everybody's going to be mixed race. Everybody's going to look like me, so which is cool. 65% of them will work in jobs that don't even exist right now, which is kind of scary. It's like, you know, so I've got friends who are like social media managers, and they'll go to their grandparents and try and explain their job, and their grandparents are like, bro, what are you on about? Like, so like basically the TikTok and then the Instagrams, I create the pictures, and then they're just like, I don't know what you mean. And people pay you for this job? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, cool. You have a job, okay. But 65% of Generation Alpha are going to do jobs that literally don't exist right now. So we've all heard about AI. Everyone, dun, dun, dun. We've all heard about AI. It's popping off. Everybody's talking about it. It's been around for a long time. Like, we've been using AI in our company for literally years. Oh, I nearly died. Oh, my God. Do I have any water? Oh, my God. Can I have some water, please? That'll be wonderful. Thank you so much. 65% of them are working in jobs that don't exist. AI's been around for a long period of time, but the interesting thing is that for these guys, they're having to prepare for jobs that they literally don't know about. So imagine when you're growing up. So when I was a kid, as you can tell, I love to talk, I don't shut up. But when I was a kid, my mum was always like, just do sales. Just forget everything else, just do sales. I was like, all right, fine. So from like 14, 15, 16 years old, I was like, I'm just gonna do sales. I knew what I was gonna do. But with this generation, imagine you're like, just do, what can they, like, there's no real target for them to go for, because 65% of the jobs, they didn't even know what they are. So how do you prepare for something? If you know what I mean? Imagine if I was like, we're going to go somewhere. Where are we going? I don't know. It's going to be great, though. You know what I mean? It stress you out. So we've got to bear that in mind. And then the last thing to mention is that there is going to be 2 billion. That's a massive number. Wait, so if there's 2 billion of them, how many are there going to be of us? I should have done the maths before. But anyway, 2 billion of Generation Alpha by 2025. That's a lot of people, because there's currently 8 billion people on the planet, right? So 2 billion extra, it's going to take us up to like 9 billion. That's a lot of people. I think we're going to run out of space, but it's fine. We'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Cool. So I'm going to play a video. Oh, you're the best. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm so thirsty. I'm going to play a video, hopefully, if the technology works. Is it going to work? Technology people. We will see. Nope. Okay, how do I play this? Do I just press play? Can you press play? Should I press play? Oh, thank you so much. So much water. I'm now overhydrated. How do I press play? I don't know why I'm pointing it at this screen. This is not a TV, Jay. How do I press play? I'm going back. I'm going forward. This? Oh, no, that's back at the... Oh, no, that's at the start of the presentation. Now I'm going... Oh, no, guys, I'm stuck. Oh, no, guys, I'm old. I don't know what I'm doing. Can someone press play on this for me? How do I press play? It's a great video. I swear to God. Anybody? Somebody? Hey, we're going to figure this out together. So, how do we press play on the video, guys? The good thing is this is killing my time, which is great. Is it playing? It's just gone black. Oh. Who's Anna? And why is Anna missing? Oh, God. Somebody send help. We're getting there. So I'm a professional, guys. Don't worry about this. This is the best talk you've ever been to in your life. What do you mean? You're like, what talk did you go to today? The guy couldn't get the slides to work. He's old, these millennials. I don't know who Anna is, but if we could find Anna and get Anna to play the video, that'd be great. Anybody? It's okay. I love you regardless. Now my clicker doesn't work. You're Anna. Anna, do you know how to play the video? Guys, at this point in time, what I'm going to do is, if you have any questions, that's my email. GDPR, guys. GDPR, jeez. Yes, thank you so much, Anna. Okay, we're going to play this video. Press play whenever you're ready. Thank you. Is there sound?
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. It's me, Ella. Well, a digital version of me. Just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media, where they can be taken and used by everybody. I know, for you, these pictures are just memories. But for others, they are data. And for me, maybe the beginning of a horrible future. A future where my identity can be stolen just like that. Where I can go to prison for things that I would never do. Imagine my credit score being destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom.
Mom, I'm in trouble.
I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
And I certainly don't want this. What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
Cool, so that was dark. And this is why I have to be funny, because I'm playing a video like that, so it's like, oh my God, so intense. So, I actually want to pose a question. We're going to go back to my slides. Anna, where's Anna? Anna, could you sort out the slides, please? No, jokes. But we're going to go back to my slides. Also, thank you so much, guys, for figuring out how to play that, because it meant a lot for me. But yeah, we're going to go back to my slides in a second. But yes, slides. I will click through. So we've done all of this, cool, we know where we are. So the top question, it's covered up by your translation, but it's fine. What will become of the first generation growing up with parents as influencers? And this is one thing I've been thinking about. I actually came up with the idea in the shower. Too much information. But I was stood there and I was thinking, this is the first generation ever that's had parents that are influencers. These people that you're seeing on the screen here, what's the one thing they all have in common? They were all like child celebrities, right? So you've got like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears. That was a great relationship. Then you've got Lindsay Lohan down in the bottom corner. Macaulay Culkin, what a guy. I used to really wanted to be him. And then I was like, I'm not a white rich kid, so it's not going to happen. And then you've got Demi Lovato. But one of the things that you see from child celebrities is just how messed up it made them. Like, Disney, Nickelodeon made a lot of money out of these kids, and their parents actually made a lot of money out of them. But it completely messed these kids up. And if you just see anything from their lives, who they are now would have been completely different if they hadn't been child TV stars. And obviously they made a massive amount of money, and that's all wonderful. But it's the impact it had on them. And I think the interesting thing that we've got is that millennials like myself, we have kids that are Generation Alpha. So they're the first generation to really grow up with parents that are actually putting them out there on social media. And even if you've only got, I don't know, 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, 3,000 followers, 100, a million, whatever it may be, the idea that we're posting our children on socials is, I get why we do it, but it's actually, when we think about it, it's actually wild. 'Cause I've been with friends, so one of my friends, him and his wife, they run like one of those marriage TikToks, and they're like, oh, marriage is great. I'm like, shut up. I love them really, whatever, don't judge me. I'm saying what you're thinking, but anyway. It's interesting because their son, I won't say his name because of GDPR, but it's interesting because we will be out in public and random people will walk up to him and be like, hi, and we'll talk to him. They're like, oh, hi, Emma, hi, and then his name, and then they'll go hi and talk to their son because they feel, because they're quite famous, they will feel like they know the child. And he's always just like, bruv, who are you? Like, move, get out of my face. But it's interesting to watch that dynamic. And one thing I think is really interesting is that we've now got that on scale. So you've got kids that are 6, 7, 5, 4, even like probably going into their like 9, 10, 13 years old, growing up, even probably younger Gen Z, who have been put all over social media, and not necessarily on the lower scale, but parents who are actual influencers. And did you really ever ask that kid, like, hey, so we're going to create this video on YouTube. We're going to make money. Do you want to be famous? The kid's like, bruv, I don't know what you mean. Just give me sweets. Like, but that's the thing. These kids are out there for everybody to see. And the challenge is with socials, like we saw in that video, you can't take it back. Once it's gone, it's gone. And I think the thing to always remember, and the thing that I'm pondering on and thinking about is, what is it going to do to these kids? Because right now, we don't really know. There's actually no data or science around this. We actually have no idea what it's going to do to them. But we do know what it did to these people on this side of the screen. Whatever side that's on. This side of the screen. There we go. We know what it did to them. So my question is, now we've got this at scale. You've got kids all around the world. I'm talking like small little towns all the way to major cities all across the US and all across the globe. What are those kids going to be doing? what is it going to do to their mental health, to their psyche, when they're actually sitting there going, I'm going out in public. Imagine you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you go to school, and your friends at school know all about your home life. But not like a normal way, but they know intimate details about your home life. Imagine what that would do to you. So that's one thing to ponder on and to think about, and that's something that's been on my heart and something that I actually don't have the answer for, but I've got some predictions that I'm going to share in a second. But I think it's really interesting to think we're now going to see at scale what social media can do to a generation when it's completely let go. We've completely just let it go and do whatever it wants. So which is super, super interesting. So I'm going to give you some predictions in a second. But before I do predictions, in a second, I'm going to come to you for questions. And I know you guys are great, and you have so many questions for me, and I'm going to be overwhelmed by the number of questions you have. So I'm very excited for that. But I'm just warning you so you know that I'm coming for questions. And we're in this together, collectively, and you're not going to leave me up here on my own, all right? Thanks, guys. So here are my predictions. Here is what I'm thinking is going to happen to Generation Alpha, and actually probably the younger part of Gen Z as well, those guys that are probably under 11, 12 years old, because their entire lives have been, sorry, you're taking a photo. There you go. Sorry, apologies. There's the photo. Sorry, I'll get out of the way. But I think the interesting thing is that because we don't have the data on it, these are just predictions. So if these don't become true, you know what I mean, don't find me and like send me abuse on email. Like, Jay, you made a mistake. The first thing I think is interesting is that, and thing that I'm predicting, is that they're going to push back on constant phone use. Because we've all seen it. You know, when you go to a restaurant and like you look around the restaurant and all the kids are just, well, back home in London, all the kids are just on their iPads and they're all just like, and mum and dad are just like, just shut up and go on your iPad. Just watch Peppa Pig. I don't know what kids watch, but anyway, I'm trying to choose a show that people watch. And we've seen it. And the thing is, I actually think there's a problem with that. I think I get it sometimes. Kids are annoying, let's be real. So you're just like, here's your iPad, shut up and be quiet. But I think actually what we're going to see is they're going to want to take more of a break from social media and from their phones, more importantly. And one thing I'm actually seeing is we posted it on our company LinkedIn the other day that the Evening Standard, which is like a newspaper back home, they posted that I want to say 60% or something. I might have been making that percentage up, but they posted about that Gen Z and Generation Alpha, well, not Alpha yet, but Gen Z are actually going back to old school phones. So like some of them are getting like flip phones, some of them are getting like old school Motorola's, because it's a way for them to actually not use technology in a way that actually they're now being used to using, which is really, really cool, I think. Imagine going back to an old school, like back home we call them drug dealer phones. I don't know what you call them here. But imagine going back to an old school phone. But for these guys, they're like, I don't want to be on the internet all the time. I don't want to be on social media all the time. I want to take time out to do that specifically, and I don't want to be doing it all the time. So I think that's the first thing we're going to see. We're going to see a push against phone use, against phone camera use. Imagine when you're a kid and they're just like, smile, smile, happy. Like I was at a kid's birthday party like 2 months ago, and it was the most surreal moment. There was probably about 30 adults in the room. We're somewhere in East London, and we're all like, happy birthday, singing, singing, singing. And the kid is just there with a cake, looks up, and there's just phones everywhere. And I was like, this is creepy. Like, this is really weird. Let's put the phones away. But you just look at the kid just like, I'm like 3 years old, and there's all these phones in my face. Like, it's wild. So I think that's one thing we're going to see. But then the challenge of this is that they've grown up with technology. They've been watching Peppa Pig, like, in the restaurant for years. So I think there's still going to be part of them that absolutely loves it. With millennials, our attention span was 14 seconds. With Gen Z, it was 8 seconds. With Gen Z, no, with Generation Alpha, I can't even imagine what it's going to be. It's going to be like, what, 1 or 2 seconds? Because they're so used to just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So imagine what that's doing to their brains. Because every time you scroll, I really want to stand on this chair, and I don't know why. It's ADHD. We're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I think the dopamine hits that we're getting from scrolling is actually really starting to mess with us. And the interesting thing is that Generation Alpha have been getting these dopamine hits from a very young age. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. And then the last one, before I finish up, you'll be all happy to hear, we're nearly done, is they will be more aware about their mental health and how it actually affects them by constantly being in the public gaze, by constantly being out there. And I think what we're going to see is, and actually quote me on this, because I think it's definitely going to happen, is there's going to be kids that sue their parents. You're going to see children whose parents were influencers, and their kids are going to go start suing them. And they're going to start putting them on blast, on TV, and in the social media to be like, yo, I didn't want to be involved in this. You put me on there, and I'm going to put you on blast. And I'm going to tell everybody about it. And I think that's going to be very interesting to watch when you see mum and dad being like, no, I just loved you. Like, yeah, well, I made you a millionaire. And you're going to see that dynamic. It's going to be interesting to see. So that's the last thing I want to mention. And now, I'm going to come to you for your questions. And I know this is a moment you've all been waiting for, and you're very excited to ask me questions. I'm so good at this. I just knew that slide was coming up. I'm going to come to you for your questions. There's a roaming microphone somewhere. We have 29 minutes left. We don't have to be here the whole time. We can be here for another 10 minutes, whatever, you know what I mean? We can do what we want. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's my LinkedIn there. That's my Twitter as well. All the social medias, I'm on there. I even have a TikTok where I do outfits. So if you want to see my outfits on TikTok, you can see that. It's not under that name, but you'll find me. It's cool, whatever. We'll be friends. So are there any questions in the room from anybody? Please, somebody ask me a question. Yes. You're my favorite person. Don't tell anyone else I said that, but you're my favorite person.
Thank you for inspiring talk. For me, the biggest challenge is to understand Generation Z, and that's why we come to listen to you. But still, I have a question, like what would you suggest to us, those who don't feel connected to Generation Z, like what to do, or what would be your maybe tips and tricks? Do you have some additional ones for us? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Thank you. What's your name, by the way?
Carolina.
Catalina. Love that. Firstly, lovely to meet you. And I think the first thing, is Kat said this yesterday on her panel, one of the best things we can do is actually listen to them. And I think previous generations didn't really do this to me. So like I said earlier, so both of my parents are immigrants to the country, to London, to England. I always say London like London's a country. This is a problem with someone that grew up in London. I'm like, yeah, London, the country. And when I was a kid, it was always just like, they just told you what to do. Like my friends who were like Nigerian or Ghanaian, it was like, you will be a doctor, you will be a lawyer, or you will be an engineer. Like you don't have a choice. And I feel like with Gen X and with boomers, that's kind of how they parented. They were just like, you're going to do something that makes me look good. If you don't do something that makes me look good, you're not my child. And I think the best thing we can do with Gen Alpha is just be like, hey, like, what are you interested in? So my son, I know, shock. So my son is 16. I know, shock. He doesn't look old enough to have a 16-year-old. I'm not. But I had him at 16. Anyway, it's another conversation for another time. Let's not get into it. This isn't therapy, guys. Let's stop. I have a therapist for that. No, I'm getting distracted. Stop. ADHD. So he's like 6'1". I know. He got the height from his mum. I hate it. But anyway, he bullies me all the time, by the way. He leans on my head. It's a lot. But so I don't know why I'm doing this, like displaying my son. But anyway, one thing I did with him, because I've been starting businesses since I was like 13 years old. So when he came of the age to understand, I was like, so when are you starting your first business? And he just looked at me like, bro, like, move. And he just doesn't have a passion for it. Like, he started like a t-shirt business, and then like, it didn't go very well. And I was like slightly disappointed, but I was like, you're a failure. But I didn't say that to him. I just like internalized it and told my therapist. But what I began to do is just ask him questions. And I was like, what are you actually interested in? And then he was like, oh, I really like product design. And I was like, cool, so we can start a business in product design, and you can start designing clothes. And he just looked at me like, but I just want to do product design. And I was like, but I don't get it. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, just make a business. But he didn't want to. So I had to just shut up, which is hard for me, as you can tell. I had to just be quiet and be like, okay, tell me what you want to do. He plays basketball, and I used to play professional football when I was a kid. Bye. No, jokes. I'm not going to do that. Imagine that we mean everybody left. I'm like, bye. See you later. No, thank you so much. He needed the toilet. Oh, ADHD. Oh, yes. So I used to play professional football, and my son played basketball. And when he started playing basketball, he was so good. I was like, this is it. We're famous. We're moving to the US. We're going to make it. You're my pension. Like, I'm so excited. And the other day, he came to my house. He's like, Dad, like, I don't want to play basketball anymore. And I was like, huh? I don't understand. And he's like, I don't really enjoy it. And I was like, in my head, I was like, that's stupid, you're stupid, this is a terrible idea. But I was like, okay, cool. So what do you want to do? I want to focus on product design. I want to go to school. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to study. I was like, all right, cool. And I think, obviously, I'm a great parent, but whatever. But I think as older people in the room, that's what we can do. We can just ask them questions. What are you interested in? And those things will change because they're like 9, 10, 12, 13 years old. Those things will change over years. But if we continuously ask questions and then whatever they want to do, we just support them wholeheartedly. Like, oh, yo, you want to like create flowers? Sick. I want to create flowers too. Like I'm 5'10". Like I'm not good at basketball, but like I played basketball with him because it's what he wanted to do, and he just kept like dunking on me and shit. And I was like, oh, I broke the remote. Sorry. And he kept dunking on me and stuff, and I was just like, whatever, man, you're good at basketball. But I just supported him, and I think that's the key. If we can just, whatever they want to do, we just support them in it and stay behind them, then it'll be a win. Is that a good answer? Yeah, thanks, appreciate you. Even if it wasn't, it's all I got. Any other questions? I think we've got one at the back. Wonderful. Yes, 23 minutes to go. I'm crushing this time.
Hi, thank you for the perfect speech. I have one question because I'm 27 years old, right? And I don't feel like Gen Z at all. If I compare myself to my younger cousins, which are like 12 and 13, I'm much slower in everything regarding technologies. And also my boyfriend is true millennial, but I'm totally different from him. Is there any kind of like mid-generation or some, you know, borderline which is not really Gen Z or millennial? Thank you.
I love that. Gen-zennial? We're just going to make up a...
Yeah, something like that.
That's a new one. You just made it up. There you go. Just make sure you put that on the internet and say that it was you that made it up. It's actually a very valid point, and I think this is the interesting thing about generational divides, is that we create them, and if I'm being honest, it's marketers, so people that work in marketing, that create generations. And the reason why we do it is because it's easier for me to sell you shit. If I create a generation, be like, you're Gen Z, so it means you're going to buy more of this. They're like, great, cool, whatever, I'll do it. And that's the reason why we create those generations. So it's yes, there are going to be common characteristics within Gen Z. So yes, you're 27 and you'll have cousins that are 13. And there's going to be things you actually have in common without realizing, but then there's also going to be massive things that you're just like, yo, bro, I do not know what you're talking about. Get out of my room. And those are the things. And you'll also have things in common with your boyfriend, who's a millennial. And also, the pain is only going to get worse as you get older. So I'm in my 30s, my back hurts, my knees are hurting right now. It's a whole situation. But understanding that and actually going, we don't need to break things down by generations necessarily all the time. You can actually go and say, Gen Z are going to have things in common with Gen X and with boomers, and that's okay. And I think one thing with the platform that we've recently launched, you can check it out on the website, whatever, I'm not trying to sell to you. But anyway, we're using our new technology, our new platform that we've built to actually enable our clients to cross-reference across generations. So they can see a quote from somebody. So say, for example, we asked a question, what did you buy in the last month that you loved and why? That's not a direct question to you, by the way, sorry. I'm just looking at you because you're right in front of me. What did you buy last month that you loved and why? And we can ask that to multiple generations. And the interesting thing is, when you ask that, you will see there's common characteristics between all of those generations in the way they answer, in where they bought that, in what they bought. And that's because of technology and the way things have moved. And I think understanding that as marketers or as human beings enables us actually to operate a lot better in society. Yeah, very good question, by the way. Any other questions from the room? Or are we all going to go outside and enjoy the sun? Because that's a much better option, let's be real. I know I said I was going to go, oh yes, one more question, sick. That will take us to the 45-minute mark, sick.
Hi, thank you for the speech. My question is, because you're involved in marketing, how AI would be impacting your area of work, because you're basically gathering the data from real people. And we know that AI, if it's learned, it takes the information from the internet, and maybe there could be replacement. Or how you will use AI, or is it like a fight against it with you?
Yeah, really good question. The good thing for us is we've been using artificial intelligence for a long time. So one thing that will never happen, obviously the movies will tell you different, but AI will never replace human beings, because the creativity that human beings have It can't be made, it's just innate. And I think the panic we're seeing is just the media trying to get people terrified. When realistically, AI has been around for a long period of time. You've had it in your phone. Anytime you speak to Siri, that's AI. This is all artificial intelligence. You're okay, everything will be fine. Like, Terminator is not going to happen anytime soon. And if it does, it is what it is. But the interesting thing for us in our space and in our business is because we've been using AI for so long, we actually use AI to protect against AI. So say, for example, one of you guys provides a 200-word response for Nike. You tell Nike, this is what I love, this is what I bought, so on and so on. We will use artificial intelligence to scan that response. So we will scan the response. We will make sure that you firstly haven't used ChatGPT or AI to create that response. And our artificial intelligence will tell us that I'm 97% sure that this is a human being that wrote this. Or it will say, I'm 97% sure this was created by AI, and it will flag it to us in red. And then we will always get a human being to then check that. So I think there's a beautiful symbiotic relationship between artificial intelligence and human beings. And I think we will always be the ones that will need to create prompts. So there's things called prompt engineers, where you will need to create prompts and you'll be the ones that will tell the AI what to do. And I think that will always be needed because at the moment, it can't think for itself. And yes, we may have self-aware AI one day, which would be kind of scary. But we may have that one day. But I think we're many, many generations realistically from that. But at the moment, we utilize it in that way. And I definitely think there's loads of amazing ways you can use it and actually protect yourself from people trying to scam you with it. Any other questions? You're like, no, I want to get outside, Jay. It's sunny, bro. So like I said, company name is Imagine Insights. Check out, oh, there's one more. Yes, sick. You just want to go out into the sun, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to ask, there is opinion that Gen Z is kind of oversensitive generation, and there is some conflicts between millennials and Gen Z, which shows like, millennials, we used to, in all the situations we used to make jokes. Black humor, like so, all the stuff, like we are just making memes, we are making jokes and so on. And sometimes I have the feeling that Gen Z is getting oversensitive because of those jokes, which is just our reaction on the bullshit that's going on around us. So will it somehow change, or like, is there some way to find the common ground? How do you think?
Yeah, really good question. I think the good thing is, with all generations, we always take the piss out of the generation that comes after us and the generation just before us. So when we came along, we're like, Gen X, whatever, you're old, you're stupid. I don't know if we said that, I just made that up. But, and then with Gen Z, millennials are looking at Gen Z like, shut up, yo. Because the reason why we're doing it is because we feel kind of salty because we're not young anymore and nobody cares about us. Remember when we were young, everyone's like, oh my God, millennials, what do they care about? And we're like, yes, I care about this, I'm so important. But now nobody cares. So we're like, damn it, what do you mean? Like, I'm the old person trying to figure out what the young people want. And I think that's partly to play, where we're kind of like poking fun at that. But also the interesting thing about Gen Z is, as a generation, what we can see is a lot of the time they are very sarcastic. They don't mind taking the piss out of themselves. And I think as millennials, we sometimes struggle with that because we're kind of like the Instagram generation. I'm beautiful, I went on holiday this year, you're going to see my holiday, yada, yada, yada. And I think that tension can then create something interesting. But what's going to happen is Generation Z are going to grow up, and as they get older, they'll mature, they'll come into themselves, they'll understand who they are. And those, like we did with Gen X, those barriers will begin to break down, and you'll begin to realize, actually, we're just all in the same boat. The economy's fucked for everybody, so we're all going to be fine. You know what I mean? There's nothing we can do. So I think that's what we're going to see probably over the next decade. It's going to take a while, because they're still figuring it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, some of them are like 13 years old. But I think the big difference is because of the way they utilize technology, they are going to get there probably quicker than we did, because we didn't have technology to actually just pull us up and be like, yo, this is weird, stop doing that, which is cool. But very good question, by the way. Any other questions? Yes, love that. Guys, we're killing it with the questions, I'm not going to lie. And we have 15 minutes left. I'm doing what I told.
Yeah, try to be quick.
Okay.
I saw that your company advises to a lot of other companies what is Gen Z, how they are behaving, what are their preferences. To me, it seems that these companies ask mainly because they want to sell their stuff to them. Have you come across some company where you thought, oh, they actually genuinely want to know how they're like, or is it mainly just business?
So there's a camera on me right now.
You don't have to name.
No, I'm joking, I'm joking. I won't name any companies. Okay. How do I say this diplomatically? No, I wouldn't say. I think, okay, let me do this. So I think all of our clients have KPIs. They have things, so key performance targets, indicators, that they've been given by their bosses. So they're told, I have sales targets to meet, so you need to go and do this. And I think a lot of the people I meet with, they are genuinely curious people. They genuinely want to know, they want to learn. Whether they want to know so they can sell things, yeah, it's probably true, but some of them are actually, I would say probably most of them are genuinely just curious people and they want to understand this generation in various different ways. I think they always want to have an underlying reason to sell, but that's just because they have targets and they have things that they have to do. And their businesses will always need that. I think there's always going to be that tension between wanting to sell shit, but also just want to just understand this generation. So the short answer to your question is no. People always want to sell stuff to the following generation. I don't like the word consumers, but people always want to sell stuff to consumers, and I don't think that's ever going to change. And that's why my business exists, and that's why I make money. No, jokes. But that's, if I'm being honest, that's the truth. It's just really people want to make money, and that's the game. Any other questions? Yes, we're killing it. We're outside. And there's some people in here like, stop asking questions.
Hello, firstly, thank you for this phenomenal presentation. And I say that most millennials says that we are the most depressing generation, like currently. What do you think about that?
I think, the truth is, millennials say it's because we're old and we're boring, but I think Gen Z are actually more in touch with their mental health. And I think that's the thing. I think with millennials, we were told, and Kat spoke about this yesterday on her panel. I keep referring to Kat, that's my co-founder, by the way. Everyone's like, who the fuck is Kat, bro? There's nobody there. The first two chairs are empty. No. With millennials, we were told, just keep going, keep doing. Like, I remember when I first started my first job. So I used to sell security alarms literally alarms for buildings in northwest London. It was very ghetto, and it was terrifying, but I loved it. But I remember I would come home, and if I hadn't sold something, my boss, Gary, what a guy, fucking Gary. And Gary was like, go back out. And I was like, bro, but it's 5 o'clock. He's like, go back out. And I was like, sick. Got back in my car and drove around for hours. And I remember thinking, this is a bit shit. But I didn't know what else to do, because he was Gen X, he was my boss, I was millennial, and I was just told, you just work. Don't moan, just work and get on with it. And we didn't really have the tools or the forthrightness or the social media to tell us, actually, that's not how bosses should be. So we kind of just accepted it, kept it moving, and then burnt ourselves out. But with Gen Z, they have the technology. They're able to see that, oh, wait, you can take a break, and you can chill, and you can cry. I love crying, it's great. I got a therapist now, you know what I mean? Whatever, I'm cool. But it's seeing that is interesting. And I think with millennials, we can sometimes struggle because we weren't given that opportunity. We weren't told, actually, okay, it's okay to actually be upset. In our company, we have mental health days. So twice a year, 2 times a year? I might be making that up. Yeah, 2 times a year, thanks, Kat. I don't know about this stuff. But twice a year, our team can just take a day off for whatever reason. They don't need to tell us, they can just take a day off. And I think that they understand how important their mental health is, and then sometimes for us, it's kind of awkward because we didn't understand that at that age, and now we're all having to get therapists because our brains are all fucked. So, short answer to your question is, we're just jealous that you guys understood it earlier, and it's actually forcing us to look at ourselves, which is great. So it's forcing millennials to look at themselves. I've told my mum, oh my God, I've told my mum to get a therapist so many times. And this woman's like, I don't need a therapist, you do. I'm like, bro? I call my mum bro, whatever. But yeah, I think that's what it mainly is. I think we're just jealous of that generation because they actually understand themselves and they understand how they feel and they sit in their emotions. I had a friend of mine the other day, he's 22. And I was like, how do you feel? And he literally took like 35, 40 seconds to answer me. I said, bro, how do you feel? Like, did you mishear me? Like, answer the question. But he's just like, I'm just thinking. I'm like, don't think, just answer. Like, what the hell? But that's, he was like, I'm just thinking I'm actually just sensing how I feel, which is interesting. So yeah, that'll be my answer. Very good question, by the way. All right, let's go enjoy the sun, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on social media. I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful afternoon.